I'm Dr. Duke with the New American, and now we finally have all of our cards on the table. We have seen the Democrats' case for impeachment, and we have heard from Trump's lawyers. And while I personally would grade Trump's lawyers at an A-, I think they did a really good job. I really appreciate the fact that Trump's lawyers did not go endlessly on. They did not repeat. That each of the lawyers got up and made really viable, interesting points. I thought the rebuttal in places was absolutely brilliant. People like Pam Bondi did a fantastic job. I thought Jay Sekulow did a wonderful job. His entire legal team, actually, I thought did a very good job of pinpoint popping balloons, right? And that's the image I want to use for this. What the Democrats did was blow up these little balloons, right? You have a balloon, right, which is 2 or 3 inches of rubber. Seems to be a small thing, an insubstantial thing, right? It's not much. But when you pump it full of hot air, it expands and expands and expands and looks like it's a really big deal, right? From that one little piece of rubber, you get what seems to be this big balloon. But the reality is that the balloon itself is an illusion. It's filled with hot air. It's nothing. And what I thought the Republicans did really well, the lawyers for the president did well, is to take very specific pins and pop those very specific bubbles, demonstrating that once you see what's left, there's nothing here. You know what a balloon looks like when it's a remnant, right? After the balloon is popped, it's just fragments of what it even used to be. That was the best thing that the Republicans did. The real problem is the Democrat case for impeachment. Adam Schiff was a one-man repetition drone. The same talking points again and again and again. The same hot air being pumped. But when it came time to put his cards on the table and actually show us what he had a really bad hand. He did not have a winning hand. He did not have evidence. Still, we find ourselves in a situation where there is no specific crime that Donald Trump has been accused of, let alone proven to have done. We find ourselves in a situation where the Democrat strategy for impeachment was repetition and deflection. Not only were they repeating the same talking points, right? The number of times in Schiff and Nadler's testimony that false news, fake news, false statements, selective comments, devoid of context, hearsay, or entered into the public record about this, it is staggering. Many people have pointed out that this case would be utterly thrown out and thrown out with prejudice if it was brought the way it was brought to any court of law in this country. There is no way the American justice system, even if it was adjudicated by a Democrat appointee judge, there's no way that a case could be allowed to be made on such flimsy and hearsay evidence. But this is not a trial in the sense that we typically understand. This is a presentation made by the House of Representatives to the Senate. And while it is the Senate's job to, quote-unquote, adjudicate this case to some degree, it is not run the so-called trial the way a typical American trial would be. And yet, in spite of all of that, when you think about how thin and how unsupported the case the Democrats made is, it is remarkable that we find ourselves now in what is effectively a deadlock. The fact that there seem to be almost no Democrats, although in the news today, apparently, you got Joe Manchin from West Virginia. You've got possibly Sinema, the new Democrat senator from Arizona, who's been silent on this. There's a couple of Democrats who may be considering flipping, but it seems that the vast majority of the Democrat Senate stands fully behind the sham impeachment process and arguments that were made by the Democrat House. That's alarming right there. It should alarm us that partisanship in this way, when you see such a clear-cut lack of procedural evidence, a clear-cut lack of actual factual basis in which to accuse the president, and the fact that all that was done without presenting witnesses on the part of the Democrat. When the Democrats impeached Donald Trump, they chose not to call witnesses. And I know why they did that. Now, they did that. They chose not to call witnesses because if you bring witnesses forward, those witnesses could be cross-examined. If you bring witnesses forward and get their testimony written down, transcripts of their testimony, then it's the easiest thing in the world for Republican operatives to go back and contextualize the statements. That's what they don't want. And it's really ironic to me that the entire Democrat arguing point now is we need witnesses. We need witnesses. We wouldn't call them. We wouldn't commit these witnesses to transcripts because we categorically knew that we don't have anything in the witness testimony that's going to fix this. Why do they want the witnesses now? Well, for a couple of obvious reasons. They want witnesses because they want to be able to extend this process. They want to drag this out, if possible, into the summer, right? The more air and oxygen that's sucked up out of the room over these impeachment, these bogus impeachment, the less theoretically Donald Trump is going to be free to campaign, the more money and the more time he's going to be kind of under the gun. And we know one thing, the Democrats have recognized this. The more you back Donald Trump into a corner, the more he uses his cell phone, right? The more he feels threatened, the more Donald Trump is going to lash out. And that's what they want too. They want Trump to be overreacting, to be reacting endlessly at inopportune times, right? Early in the morning, late in the evening. They want Trump responding because they think that they can turn that outrage and that temperamentalness from our president into fundraising gold for them. That's the first thing. The second reason they want witnesses is because they want those witnesses to be front and center before the American people. And they want those witnesses they call, witnesses that they can control. They want to be able to, like John Bolton, the biggest, the new bombshell that we've heard about is John Bolton's manuscript, which was quote unquote leaked to the press. Yes, I'm sure that happened completely by accident. It was completely coincidental, wasn't it, that one of Bolton's premises about Ukraine just happened to leak right at the moment where America was exposed to the utter lack of evidence. At the very same moment that the American people woke up to the reality that this is one great big nothing burger, all of a sudden, just by pure coincidence, we're asked to believe that leak comes from Bolton's side of the aisle. Well, we'll see what ends up happening here, but these are ways to demand witnesses that they can extend this. And there's also ways here that they can manipulate the American people. And the fact that they wouldn't call those witnesses, but they want them called now, is also problematic. And you got people like Chuck Schumer, right, who are demanding our witnesses, but not yours. This is what they did throughout the entire House impeachment. They would not let Republicans rebut evidence. They would not let Republicans call their own witnesses. They would not let Republicans cross-examine. They completely froze the Republicans out because they had a small majority in the U.S. Congress. Meanwhile now, people like Chuck Schumer, senators, and Nadler and Schiff, the House managers for the Democrats, are demanding that the Republicans should not be able to call people like Hunter Biden, people like Joe Biden. Why not? Why not? The whole premise now of impeachment revolves around what happened in the Ukraine. And before Donald Trump became president, Joe Biden and Hunter Biden were in charge of much, apparently. Joe Biden was in charge of our relationship with Ukraine for the Obama administration. Hunter Biden radically enriched himself. And the whole premise of the impeachment is that Donald Trump investigated Ukraine, threatened Ukraine with money or to withhold money because he wanted opposition research somehow on Biden, that the President of the United States did not have the right to investigate the potential corruption of the Obama administration with regards to Joe Biden and his son. Well, that's now been shot down too. We now know from the Republicans' case that there were more than enough reasons why the Republicans and the president would want to investigate the Bidens. I mean, the circumstances of all of this is so obvious. The corruption, being paid $80,000 a month, Hunter Biden, without the least bit experience, over $1 million. There's no explanation for it. So the chutzpah, the cojones of the Democrats, people like Schumer, Nadler, and Schiff are demanding we should be able to bring our witnesses, but Donald Trump should, and the Republicans in the Senate should not be able to bring theirs. So we can allege Ukraine is the reason we have to impeach Donald Trump, but we will insist that you have no right to call Biden and his son Hunter, around whom all of this speculation exists, to testify. Boy, the arrogance, having your cake and eating it too. I've never seen a situation where one house of government, one branch of government, one house of the American Congress talk to the other this way, where Democrats are excluding Republicans to impeach and now lecturing the Senate that they must do things the way the Democrats in the House want them. It's staggering. It's not going to work. But boy, what a show. And now we have the evidence. We know there's nothing here. And the Democrats don't want more here by letting us talk to Hunter Biden. I'm Dr. Duke, and this is The New American.